All right, it's your boy Spankdog, aka Puffinstein, at YouTube. Like, comment, share, subscribe. You already know. Click the notification bell so you know when I go live or when I post videos. And BC Spankdog at Instagram and Robert Lopez at Facebook. And that's because we're streaming to 3 platforms. All right. So we're going to get straight into it. This one is about people that have gone missing. It's in different countries, but still you'll see their faces. You already know if you recognize anybody, you know what it is. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Let's get right into it. Let me add it to the stage. And let's watch. People out there, be careful. It could happen that quick. You don't suspect it. There's horrible people out there. Monsters, evil. So keep that in mind, man.
On the evening of December 7th, 2000, Trevor Deely went to his office's Christmas party at a nightclub down the street from the Bank of Ireland in Dublin, where he'd been working in the IT department for
This is in Dublin.
about a year. Upon leaving the party at 3:30 a.m., Trevor couldn't get a ride back to his apartment due to a massive taxi driver's strike, and his only option was to walk home through an area notorious for crime and gang violence. It was a 20-minute walk home, and
now he got to troop it through the ghettos of Ireland because there's a taxi driver strike.
Since the bank was pretty much just up the street, Trevor decided to make a quick stop at his office to grab his umbrella before walking home in the rain. Strangely, the bank's CCTV footage shows a man dressed in black standing behind one of the pillars of the bank's gate. The man can be seen standing there for almost half an hour.
All right, just so you know, in the beginning part of the story, there's a person that he encounters
Before Trevor arrives. A little after 3:30, the man in black pulls out his cell phone to take a call, and a few seconds later, Trevor walks by also on the phone. Police later determined that at that exact time, Trevor had made a phone call to a co-worker who was still at the bank. The CCTV video shows Trevor arriving at the bank's front gate, and a second man dressed in black steps out of the shadows to talk to him. Trevor ends his call as he opens the gate and talks to the man in black.
It was almost too perfect. It's like he popped out of nowhere. It was like he timed it. I don't think the guy trying to get, to the bank is familiar with the guy, but you never know. Like with these mysteries and these people that go missing, like I told you, some of them get solved and some of them don't. I think I put it in the description. I'm gonna let it play before I elaborate.
It doesn't look like they know each other, but Trevor doesn't seem to be scared or concerned.
That's what
the man simply stands by the gate as Trevor walks in, and a few minutes later, the man in black walks out of the camera's view. Trevor's co-worker reported that he and Trevor shared a cup of tea that night and talked about the party for a while, and that Trevor had also logged on to his work.
All right, remember when I came down, they called me Puffinstein. My name ain't Puffinstein for nothing. So when I came down, I tell y'all guys this all the time, but this for new viewers. When I came down, you can make sense out of it. I'm still here. All right, let me hit play so you can continue to watch. It's a lot of stuff I want to talk to you guys about.
Computer for a couple of minutes just before he left the bank at about 4 a.m. The CCTV footage shows Trevor stepping out onto the street and opening his umbrella before walking home. He didn't appear to be followed, and a few minutes later at about 4:06 a.m., he made a call to a friend to let him know that everything was all right and that he was on his way home. But since his friend was still asleep, he left a voicemail. That voicemail would be the last time that anyone heard from Trevor Deely. At 4:14 a.m., Trevor was seen walking by an ATM on a street about 15 minutes away from his apartment. Less than 30 seconds later, a man in black appears on screen, apparently.
Just like I said before, that it was too coincidental that he popped up out of nowhere when he was trying to get into the bank through the gate or whatever. This is too coincidental too. He is right on his heels.
About 15 minutes away from his apartment. Less than 30 seconds later, a man in black appears on screen, apparently following Trevor.
Sorry about that, people.
To a friend to let him know that everything was all right and that he was on his way home. But since his friend was still asleep, he left a voicemail. That voicemail would be the last time that anyone heard from Trevor Deely. At 4:14 a.m., Trevor was seen walking by an ATM on a street about 15 minutes away from his apartment. Less than 30 seconds later, a man in black appears on screen, apparently following Trevor. 16 years later in 2016, the CCTV footage was digitally enhanced, and police determined that the man in black from the bank was the same man who later followed him. This was the last footage where Trevor was seen alive. Although he missed work on Friday, his coworkers didn't seem to find it strange, considering that many other employees were still hungover from the party and had also taken the day off. But after his friends and family couldn't get in touch with him over the weekend, and he didn't show up for work on Monday, he was immediately reported missing. Trevor's friends and family led the search from the beginning, and it was actually his friends and not the police who managed to get the disturbing footage from that evening. Unfortunately, they didn't have access to the footage until 4 days after his disappearance, which meant that the police had lost valuable time in the search for Trevor Deely. There may have been more CCTV footage of Trevor from that night, but at the time, CCTV cameras recorded their footage on VHS tapes, which were often recorded over with new footage, erasing the previous footage in the process.
I mean, that's not the worst footage in the world, what they showed. I mean, you know, I'm sure it could have been way better, but like that's decent. He said VHS.
Over the years, several theories about Trevor's disappearance have surfaced, but none of them have been confirmed. Some have speculated that he might.
Nobody knows what happened to him. This is one of those cases that I was talking about. You know, there's 4 stories, but in this particular story, nobody ever finds out what happens to Trevor Deely. Trevor Deely was from Ireland. I would, this is just my gut instinct. I wouldn't assume he's alive. Hopefully he would be, but, yeah, my heart goes out to his family big time. God bless his family. Anybody that's hurting over his disappearance.
Might have been intoxicated that night, which may have caused him to fall into the water under the bridge and drown. But Irish.
See, that one's far-fetched. I don't agree with that one at all. I think somebody did something to him. It's a coincidence. What a coincidence that he had to go through a bad neighborhood because of the taxi strike. You know what I'm saying? I doubt that he just happened to fall. But that's just my opinion. That's why I always let the beginning play so you guys could know. In the disclaimer at the beginning, it's my opinion. You know what I mean? Everybody, you could definitely drop what you think about what happened, especially in stuff like this. These are mysteries. This is still a mystery. One of the ones that's coming up, or 2 of the ones that's coming up, it's got closure. But I think like 1 or 2 other ones don't have closure. You get what I mean?
Recorded over with new footage, erasing the previous footage in the process. Over the years, several theories about Trevor's disappearance have surfaced, but none of them have been confirmed. Some have speculated that he might have been intoxicated that night, which may have caused him to fall into the water under the bridge and drown. But Irish police searched all nearby bodies of water, and no signs of Trevor were ever found. Most people believe that the mysterious man who was seen following Trevor in the CCTV footage had something to do with his disappearance.
I mean, that's probably what a lot of people would think. It's, it makes the most sense. I wouldn't want a person who didn't do anything to get in trouble neither. But yeah, just don't look kosher, especially because something there was an encounter at the bank. But like I said, you never know if he knew the person, if he didn't know the person. Everything is assumptions and contemplating.
But to this day, he remains unidentified. In 2017, police received a tip from an anonymous source who claimed to know what had happened to Trevor. According to this source, the man who followed Trevor that night was a gang member who murdered Trevor after he refused to help him gain access to the Bank of Ireland building. The man
This was
supposedly
the
buried him in the
story.
woods a few miles away from where Trevor was last seen. For several weeks
Let's hear that
in
again.
2017, police received
In 2017, yeah, this is the one that I wondered if it had any truth to it.
to do with his disappearance, but to this day, he remains unidentified. In 2017, police received a tip from an anonymous source who claimed to know what had happened to Trevor. According to this source, the man who followed Trevor that night was a gang member who murdered Trevor after he refused to help him gain access to the Bank of Ireland building. The man supposedly buried him in the woods a few miles away from where Trevor was last seen. For several weeks, 20 police officers and a search dog continued to search the site, but after 2 months of digging, the search was called off. 23 years after the incident, Trevor Deely's chilling disappearance is an open and active case. The events leading up to it, however, are still a mystery.
They never found out what happened to Trevor Deely. You know, I say his name clearly so people don't forget. Trevor Deely. Here's another look at his face real quick.
Scene. For several weeks, 20 police officers and a search dog continued to search the site, but after 2 months of digging, the search was called off. 23 years after the incident, Trevor Deely's chilling disappearance is an open and active case. The events leading up to it, however, are still a mystery.
That's him, man. Trevor Deely.
On November 28, 2012, Emma Philippoff disappeared under very strange circumstances in Victoria, British Columbia. A year before her mysterious disappearance, Emma had...
The name is right here. It says Emma Philippoff. Just so you know, Emma Philippoff
fulfilled her lifelong dream of moving to the Canadian West from Perth, Ontario. Although she arrived in Victoria without a job or place to live, Emma quickly moved in with a friend and found work at a local cafe while she looked for her own place to live. Things seemed to be going well for Emma, but when winter came, she became much more withdrawn and started acting in strange ways. According to her roommate, it wasn't uncommon to see Emma engage in obsessive-compulsive rituals and erratic behaviors and to fall victim to what seemed to be manic episodes. Just a few months after her...
I have a friend that used to have those behaviors, and it looks like slowly he started to, get worse. God bless him. I hope he's okay. Let me press play.
Arrival in Victoria, Emma abruptly left her friend's apartment, quit her job at the cafe, and began living pretty much anywhere she could find. She stayed at a hotel, camped in the woods, and even slept on boats in Victoria's harbor for a while. By early 2012, Emma was living in a women's shelter in Victoria. That summer, Emma landed a seasonal job.
I don't know if it's because of her mental health issue, but she likes to be free. Some people would be like, what do you mean? And I'd be like, she doesn't want to be constricted at all, to the point where she'd rather be home. I don't know if this is 100% accurate. Again, this is my opinion. But she'd rather be homeless than be told what to do. And there are people out there like that. They want to be able to make their own decisions 100%.
At Redfish Bluefish, a popular seafood restaurant in Victoria's Inner Harbor, where she seemed relatively happy for a while. It was also around that time that Emma bought a red Mazda MPV van in hopes of permanently living on the road and traveling to different cities in the US, Mexico, and Canada. When she...
That looks like an old photo.
Left her seasonal job in October, she assured her co-workers that she would be back in the spring. Unfortunately, Emma's mental health struggles kept her from reaching the freedom she longed for, and her behavior grew increasingly erratic and unpredictable. In the months before her disappearance, her friends and some of the staff at the women's shelter...
Well, first of all, too, before I forget, definitely gotta hit the like button. I'm already subscribed. The video is from Chillin' Scares, one of my favorite channels on YouTube.
Mentioned that she had been acting paranoid over an unnamed man she had dated back when she was a culinary school student in Perth. She never mentioned whether they had kept in touch, but this seemed to be one of the causes for her paranoid behavior. A few weeks before her disappearance, Emma had an episode where she dragged the furniture in the women's shelter across the street and later claimed that she heard voices coming from the furniture telling her to do it. Around that time, she also
See, there's so many things like that where they say that her behavior was erratic. A lot of people wouldn't, like they think that she ran off or whatever. But just because a person has a mental health issue doesn't mean that they, if they disappear, that it's not that serious. It's still a missing person.
also gave away and sold many of her personal belongings. On November 20th, Emma was seen on CCTV at the YMCA in Victoria. In this strange video, she can be seen walking in and out of the building several times in the span of 14 minutes. Some people have speculated that she might have been trying to hide from someone, while others claim she was probably waiting for a ride and didn't want to spend the entire
And they said she didn't have on shoes. It's snowy outside.
time outside in the freezing cold while her ride arrived, but neither of these theories were ever confirmed. 3 days after this footage was captured, Emma had a series of emotional conversations over the phone with her mother, during which Emma asked her mother to let her move back in with her in Perth. Her mother agreed, but grew concerned after Emma changed her mind several times between moving back to Perth and staying in Victoria during their conversations. On November 28th, Emma's mother realized she was living in a shelter after she dialed back a number that Emma had called from, and a staff member answered the phone. Concerned about her daughter's well-being, she immediately took a plane to Victoria. Early that same day, at around 8:30 a.m., Emma was captured on CCTV
They
walking
already
into a
talked about a
7-Eleven and buying
boyfriend, but they talk about somebody else coming up.
a prepaid card for $200. Later that afternoon, she went back to the 7-Eleven to buy a prepaid cell phone, which she never activated. The video shows Emma repeatedly looking out the window and hesitating
Every
before
time they
leaving the
show her
store.
too, even in the footage that's up and coming, she looks like she's nervous, like if she's like she's worried about somebody trying to get her or something like that.
As if she was trying to avoid someone on the outside. Her paranoid behavior suggests that she might have been followed or threatened, but this was never confirmed. After finally leaving the 7-Eleven, she arrived back at the shelter at about 6 p.m. to find out that her mother was on her way to pick her up and take her home. Upon hearing the news from a staff member, Emma rushed out the front door and took a cab to the airport. A few minutes later, though, Emma cut the ride short by telling the driver she couldn't afford the $60 ride, even though reports mentioned that she had had over $2,000 on her at the time. Dennis Quay, an acquaintance of Emma, later
Somebody else is in the equation. If she had $2,000, $60,000 to get to a safe place, $60 out of 2,000. That sounds like a steal deal. You know what I mean? Especially if you're worried.
ran into her at a crossing outside the Empress Hotel at around 8 p.m. She was barefoot, and according to Dennis, she seemed extremely agitated and refused to cross the street. Emma's paranoid behavior led Dennis to ask her if she was being followed, but she assured him that she wasn't. Not knowing what else to do, Dennis called the police to tell them there was a dazed and distressed woman walking barefoot in front of the Empress Hotel. A few minutes later, Victoria police arrived and spoke to Emma for 45 minutes. Somehow, the officers decided that she was not a threat to herself or anyone else, and they let her go. That was the last time anyone
I mean, it's a hard situation. You don't want to tell her what to do, but she looks like she's scared.
ever saw Emma. 3 hours after she was last seen, her mother arrived at the women's shelter to pick her up, but Emma was nowhere to be found. After her mother reported her missing, the search for Emma Filipoff began. The following morning, investigators found Emma's red Mazda van in the Chateau Victoria Hotel parking lot, where she had paid to get it towed 3 days before her disappearance on November 25th. Inside the van were all of Emma's belongings, including her laptop, passports, a pillow, and clothes, indicating that she might have been planning to move back to Perth or run away.
This one's sad too, because if something happened to her, that's sad. And then even if, let's say, something happened to her because she needed help from, like, medical help or whatever. Um, either way, it's sad. She needed help.
away. Unfortunately, this is where Emma's case went cold, except for a few mysterious tips. In 2014, a man in a green shirt walked into a convenience store in Gastown, about 75.
This is weird, guys. This is what made me think maybe, this is the guy right there. What he does is awkward. Like, I wouldn't. I'm the last person to say, oh, maybe that's the guy that did something. Because first of all, what was done is most likely she was hurt and went missing, and there's a chance she was killed, and they just haven't found the body. And well, unalived. My bad. But when you see what this guy does, it's gonna make you wonder too.
Miles north of Victoria. According to the store owner, the man ripped off a poster advertising a $25,000 reward for finding Emma, telling the owner that Emma wasn't missing. He claimed that Emma was his girlfriend and that she had been living with him and that she ran away from her family because she hated them. Although the store owner reported this to the police, the man was never identified. 4 years later, in 2018, almost 6 years after Emma's disappearance, another man confirmed that he had seen her on the morning after her disappearance, claiming that up until then he hadn't made the connection that the woman he had seen was
Yo, that I don't. I'm going back on that one.
had been living with him and that she ran away from her family because she hated them. Miles north of Victoria. According to the store owner, the man ripped off a poster advertising a $25,000 reward for finding Emma, telling the owner that Emma wasn't missing. He claimed that Emma was his girlfriend and that she had been living with him and that she ran away from her family because she hated them.
I don't.
Although the store owner reported this to the police, the man was never identified.
I don't like.
4 years later, in 2018, almost 6 years after Emma's disappearance, another man confirmed that he had seen her on the morning after her disappearance, claiming that up until then he hadn't made the connection that the woman he had seen was Emma. According to the man, Emma was standing on the side of the road, barefoot and soaking wet, looking nervous and paranoid as she asked the man for a ride. She claimed she was going to visit a friend in Colwood, about 10 miles from Victoria. The man told Emma he couldn't take her that far, but he drove her a few miles and dropped her off at a nearby gas station. After that, nobody ever saw Emma again. Strangely, the identity of this friend that Emma mentioned she was going to visit is still a mystery. Although Emma's mother has searched non-stop for her daughter for several years, the cause for Emma's disappearance is still unknown. Some people speculate that she might have fallen victim to the man she mentioned she dated back in Perth, even though the police interrogated him and eventually cleared him.
If anybody knows any updates or if they have any like comments about the case, what they think, you go right ahead and drop the comments. Yeah, man, stuff like this leaves you wondering, especially like because I like true crime. Definitely, there's no doubt about that. But when it's when you don't get when you don't get closure, I mean, and I'm just a person that's watching. Imagine a person that's involved in it. My heart goes out to the family every time we watch one. My heart goes out to the family.
Another possibility is that she was kidnapped by the man in the green shirt in the footage. Due to Emma's mental state in the weeks leading up to her disappearance, other people think that her mental health struggles might have gotten the best of her. 11 years later,
That's a part of me wonders about the mental health issues, but that don't mean that she disappears into the thin blue air. Like, you know what I mean? She don't evaporate because she has a mental health issue. And like I said, homie grabbing the wanted poster talking about that's his girlfriend. First of all, if that's your girlfriend and you know that there's a big ruckus like that, you straighten that out. You don't just leave things the way they are. That's very suspect. Very suspect. Yeah. How do you just rip it off the wall and not say, oh, tell them that she's not even missing, that they don't gotta go through all this. We're gonna bring her down later. Like, that's the kind of stuff that would have happened. In my opinion,
later, and police still don't know whether Emma even left the island in the first place, or if she's still out there somewhere.
God bless her.
The haunting disappearance of the Jameson family in 2009 gained public attention and media coverage after some
Yo, guys, this one is wild.
disturbing footage of the family was found by police. In 2009, Bobby and Sherilyn Jameson lived with their 6-year-old daughter Madison in Eufaula, Oklahoma. Although they lived what appeared to be normal lives, the Jamesons' marriage was a rocky one, and police have long tried to figure out if their difficult circumstances were somehow tied to their disappearance. Around the time of their disappearance, the couple had been dealing with financial issues. Since 2003, the Jamesons had been on disability after Bobby was involved in a serious car accident that left him with severe chronic back pain. His wife Sherilyn had her own health issues. She had been diagnosed with bipolar disorder, but sometimes refused to take her medication. In 2009, the family decided to drive up to check out a 40-acre plot of land in Red Oaks, Oklahoma, about 30 miles away from their home in Eufaula. They specifically asked to inspect the plot of land without a real estate agent present. The Jamesons had told their friends and family that they were planning on moving there to start a new life after pulling their 6-year-old daughter Madison out of kindergarten over some kind of disagreement with their daughter's school. During the week they drove up to Red Oaks, nobody heard from the family. Because they were an unusually private family that often went off the grid without
I think it was just the mother, the father, and the little girl. Was there a fourth? I couldn't tell.
contacting anybody for weeks at a time, nobody assumed that the Jamesons had disappeared. But after a pair of hunters discovered the family's truck abandoned on a dirt road at the edge of the woods 9 days after they were last seen, it was clear that something was wrong. Inside the truck, police found a GPS, cell phones, empty pill bottles, wallets, and $32,000 in cash, which was extremely strange considering
You see, $32,000 in cash. Like that's you don't want to have that on the road. That's the road is the wrong place for that amount of money.
the Jamesons had been struggling financially. Disturbingly, the Jamesons' dog was found alive in the truck, dehydrated and starving after spending days in the locked vehicle. Police also reported that they found a chilling 11-page angry letter from Sherilyn to Bobby, in which she accused him of hating his daughter and being a loner and a hermit. According to a specific police report,
This was what really made me wonder. He had gotten into a dispute with his father over him working, and he told him he would take care of him later, according to how the story goes or whatever. And that was like one of the only clues. Like it's all speculation, it's all alleged, but you'll hear right now what I'm talking about.
there was a haunting sentence in the letter that read, "I would not wish my daughter to be raised in foster care because of you being in prison for attempted murder and her mother dead." At this point, it was impossible for anyone to know what had happened to the Jamesons. But immediately after it was determined that the family was missing, police started to search around the area where the truck was found. For 9 months, a search team consisting of 400 volunteers, 16 search dogs, unmanned drones, planes, horses, and a specialized search unit scoured the woods in search of the missing family. During this time, police found unsettling footage recorded by the family's home security cameras from the day the Jamesons vanished. In the video, Bobby and Sherilyn can be seen loading their truck in preparation for the trip, but something immediately seems off about the footage.
You tell me if you think they were tweaking or if they were scared. I mean, I think they were tweaking. When I say tweaking, if they were using narcotics, and they changed their clothes. I don't know if it's multiple times, but they go in with things that they brought out, objects, and then they go back in with the same objects, and you're here.
The couple make over 20 trips to load the truck, sometimes putting things in the truck and then taking those same things back to the house, then back to the truck again. A few times, the husband and wife even walk from the truck to the house and back again without carrying anything in their hands. Strangely, the couple changed clothes several times throughout the video, and it's hard to tell exactly with the low frame rate of the footage, but they seem to not interact with each other a single time. The psychologist that was called in to review the footage immediately attributed the couple's bizarre trance-like movements and strange behavior to illegal drug use. Bobby had a history of drug use, but it was never confirmed whether the couple was under the influence of drugs during the video. After looking deeper into the Jamesons' lives, police were only left with more questions. A pastor close to the family mentioned that shortly before their disappearance, Bobby had told him that there were spirits living on the roof of his house, and he had even requested that an exorcism be performed at his home multiple times. Bobby Jameson also owned a copy of the Satanic Bible, which he had been reading before his disappearance to try and find a way
I'm still here, y'all.
to make the spirits leave his house. Friends and family members have also mentioned that they believe the house was haunted, and many of them reported having paranormal experiences and feeling an overwhelmingly dark presence whenever they visited the house.
I don't know.
Despite the validity of these claims, it is known that Sherilyn Jameson was involved in a kind of witchcraft. She frequently held seances at her house and often spoke about her supposed paranormal experiences. Sherilyn owned cats, and after they died, she suspected that her neighbors had poisoned them, so she spray painted the words, "Witches do not like it when their cats are killed," on a large metal storage container on the Jamesons' property.
Why would you like people? She dubbed herself a witch.
The mystery around the case continued to grow, but it wasn't until November 2013, 4 years after the Jamesons' disappearance, that two deer hunters stumbled upon the skeletal remains of two adults and a small child, about 3 miles from where the family's truck had been found 4 years earlier. Because the bones were heavily decomposed, it wasn't until 8 months later that forensic investigators were finally able to confirm that the skeletons belonged to the Jameson family. Due to the state of the skeletal remains, the cause of death couldn't be determined. With so many disturbing events and unsettling circumstances leading to the family's disappearance, many theories...
Man, those bones must have been, like, I don't know, they must have rotted bad, because usually bones will stay intact somewhat.
about what had happened to the Jamesons began to surface. Police began by investigating Bobby Jameson's father in connection with the murders. Less than 6 months before the family's disappearance, Bobby had sued his...
This is the one. This is the one that I'm talking about. It took a second.
His father for $10,000 for making him work unpaid at his gas station, promising him that he'd give his son a stake in the business in the future. After his father sold the gas station and refused to pay him, Bobby started a lawsuit against his father. But things took a dark turn, and Bobby had to get a restraining order after his father threatened to kill him and his family multiple times. Even though Bobby's father...
You don't want to pay your son $10,000 for putting in probably like $30,000 worth of work, and you threaten to kill him and his family? I gotta hear that again.
Began to surface. Police began by investigating Bobby Jameson's father in connection with the murders. Less than 6 months before the family's disappearance, Bobby had sued his father for $10,000 for making him work unpaid at his gas station, promising him that he'd give his son a stake in the business in the future. After his father sold the gas station and refused to pay him, Bobby started a lawsuit against his father. But things took a dark turn, and Bobby had to get a restraining order after his father threatened to kill him and his family multiple times. Even though Bobby's father was a known meth user and was involved in criminal activity, one popular theory is that, considering Bobby Jameson's drug use and the unexplained $32,000...
In the comments, if you see this, let me know what you think about his own father threatening to unalive him. And he had him work probably 3 times more than what the 10,000 was. So he was actually saving money, and he had the money to give it to him. If I remember correctly, just a second ago, they said he sold something off. Let me know what you think.
$1,000 found in the family's car. It's possible that the Jamesons were involved in the drug trade and were killed in a drug deal gone wrong. The area where the bodies were found in is notorious for drug activity, but no...
That's another thing, too. You don't want to throw dirt on somebody's name, and now they're talking about that they were involved in the trade.
Odd evidence has been found to support this theory. Police found a small hole on the back of Bobby's head, but forensic experts believe that it was too small to be a bullet hole, and that it was most likely caused by animals after his death. Other people have speculated that the Jamesons could have been involved in a cult. The strange symbols and cryptic writing that was found on the family's truck seemed to support this idea, and Sherilyn's own mother claimed that her daughter was on a cult's hit list for some unknown reason. Although there has been cult activity in eastern Oklahoma since the 90s, their presence has decreased over the years, and it was never confirmed whether the Jamesons had any involvement with the cold. Because of the hate letter found in the truck and the couple's history of mental illness and drug use, some people think that either Bobby or Sherilyn could have murdered their family before themselves. With no evidence at the scene to support any of these theories, the case has remained unsolved for 14 years. Police and investigators are still searching for new evidence, but there are currently no suspects for the disappearance and murder of the Jameson family.
You never know, man. There's a lot of different possibilities.
On the evening of Wednesday, July 29, 2015, Stephen Mackerel went out with his brother and some friends to Lucky's Tavern, a popular bar in downtown Fort Lauderdale, Florida. Stephen's brother left the bar at 11 p.m. to go to work the next morning. When he noticed Stephen was intoxicated, he told his brother to go home and drive safely. But the night was still young, and at around 1:30 a.m., Stephen and his friends left the bar and agreed to meet in the parking lot of a nearby Walgreens to plan their next move. But Stephen never made it to the Walgreens, and his friends never saw him again. Stephen lived with his parents and worked as a professional poker dealer at a casino in Hollandale Beach near Fort Lauderdale. When he didn't come home the next day,
it isn't easy to be a professional poker dealer. Yeah, it's not easy. Not trust me because I don't know, but I mean, from my experience, yeah, you got to be nasty with handling them cards if you're gonna deal in a casino, as it being your career, or at least like something you work at for 4 or 5 years. You got to be nasty with them cards.
and didn't show up for work the day after that, his family knew something was wrong. Police reported that there were several surveillance systems in the area where Stephen was last seen, but they said it might take weeks before they could gather the relevant footage. In the meantime, investigators interviewed the friends and family members who had last seen Stephen. Thinking that he might have gotten into an accident due to his intoxicated state, police conducted searches in many different lakes and ponds, but nothing important was found. The search became even more complicated when investigators learned that Stephen's phone battery had died at the bar.
I don't remember what happened, so I don't remember if they find out what happened to him, or if they found out what happened to the family. But I don't know in this one.
Because the phone was never turned on after that night, it was impossible for police to use the phone to locate Stephen. At the time of his disappearance, Stephen was 25 and had a 1-year-old daughter and a long-term girlfriend he had plans to marry. And his friends and family claimed that he was not the type of person who would voluntarily walk out of his life and just vanish with no explanation. Unfortunately, some of the footage that was found during the investigation suggests that Stephen's disappearance was not at all his choice. 2 weeks after he was last seen, police discovered that Stephen had used his credit card at a gas station in Pompano Beach about an hour after he had left the bar. It was about a 15-mile drive from the bar to the gas station, and nobody understood why Stephen had even taken that detour in the first place. The surveillance footage from inside the gas station shows Stephen entering the store at 2:26 a.m., appearing to be intoxicated as he stumbles around the store, shopping.
Wow. All right, they got footage of him, and to be honest with you, just at a first quick glance, I thought drunk, but like I said, that's just a quick glance.
For snacks. His behavior doesn't seem to bother the store owner, and less than a minute later, he walks to the counter to pay for the snacks with his credit card. For a few minutes after that, Stephen had a casual conversation with 2 young women who were inside the gas station, but this happened out of the camera's view. Nearly a week after the initial footage was revealed, police obtained additional footage of Stephen that completely changed the course of the investigation.
Yeah, I think he's sipping. I think he drank too much, but then again, you never know.
The CCTV footage shows Stephen standing next to his 2013 white Ford Fusion in the parking lot. He seems to get into some sort of altercation with the driver of an unidentified silver sedan.
You should never grandstand on people, man. I know he's intoxicated, but last thing you want to do is just throw your a whiskey bottle or something at a car, and you never know who's in that car. It could be the worst of the worst.
And as the silver car pulls away, Stephen takes a step back and throws what appears to be his drink at the driver.
That don't mean that's the answer to what happened, but I'm just saying that's not a good look. At the end, if this is the last piece of footage they have.
He gestures with his hands at the driver as he gets into his vehicle, and 3 minutes later, the silver car circles back into the gas station, this time pulling right behind Stephen's car. The driver's intentions are unknown, But as soon as Stephen pulls away in his Ford, the silver sedan speeds after him.
Mm.
This was the last time Stephen was seen alive. All police knew about the driver was that he was an African-American man who had walked shirtless into the gas station store a few minutes before the incident, but was never identified. For 8 years, Fort Lauderdale police have been searching for Stephen's car. His license plate was never scanned by any license plate readers, indicating that he never left the Fort Lauderdale area. Search teams have combed through over 20 bodies of water looking for the car, but nothing has ever been found. Disturbingly, during the searches, almost 20 other vehicles have turned up in nearby lakes, ponds, and canals, including stolen vehicles with bullet holes, but nothing relating to Stephen's disappearance. Not even a clue.
Imagine if it was just over that nonsense. Just because he threw a bag of chips or something, or or a whiskey bottle, like I said, or a can of Pepsi. Who knows what it was? But like, if that's really what put things into motion to the point where we never seen him again, that's wild.
As of 2023, detectives and investigators still have no idea if Stephen was involved in an accident or if he became the victim of something much more sinister.
That's all it takes for a person to get mad, man. Wow. That was wild. I didn't think it was gonna end. I didn't think it was gonna end like that. Because I watch a lot of them first because I want to make sure they're worth watching. Sometimes if you don't watch something, you'll go to watch it and it'll be like, oh man, this was a bad choice. So I definitely watch some of almost all of them to make sure it's not a dud or it might be out of nowhere, be tasteless. You know what I'm saying? So, but I didn't see the end. I didn't know that at the very, very end, he throws something at a car, and that could have been the catalyst. That could have been the catalyst of his demise. It's wild. Yo, listen, man. Like I said, too, I'm only going to be doing one at a time. I'm tired right now, too. Oh, my God. I was going to jump back on and do another one on academics because academics, and I still got to get Elon Musk for the, and then academics, he's, he hasn't been being, to be honest with you, I'm just being honest. I never was a big fan of academics. You know what I'm saying? And money don't impress me. So when a man does what we all believe, well, a lot of us believe Elon did, it's crazy. You got to be more careful when you talk about certain people. That's crazy too. But we're gonna talk about him. I'm gonna ask. I wanna ask people what they think. But anyway, like I said, that's for another video. We're gonna be doing topic by topic, video by video from now on. Much love. It's your boy Spankdog. I'm out. Peace.